Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz. As you can see, bigz is not here. He is on a special assignment. It is Rebecca's birthday, so wishing Rebecca a very happy birthday. Hopefully, bigz is spoiling you. It is our injury show every week, and we got Marcus back, as always, our physical therapist, our expert in injuries. He is back. Marcus, welcome in. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good to be back. Another beautiful week here talking ball with my second favorite Canadian, only behind Sidney Crosby. We're down bigz this week, but, that's okay. We'll miss him, but I hope he enjoys celebrating his significant other's birthday tonight.
So. Exactly. Yeah. I wish him well, and I'm sure they're having a great time at the spa getting manis and petties. But that's for you and I to talk about. Are you back here? Okay, let's get you back on there. And Marcus is back. Yeah, so there we go. So good on bigz. He's back, but let's talk about some injuries here. It's been a busy week in the NFL, but it looks like a lot of players are coming back. We have a couple guys that were ruled out already as of this afternoon. This is going to be airing on Saturday morning. So we had word on a couple guys already. Let's talk about Michael Pittman. He was practicing in full. His back injury still remains a concern that could flare up, but the biggest concern to me is the Colts. They're starting Anthony Richardson this week back in, so I'm going to be fading Michael Pittman this week. And in general, I mean, he was on the downslope and coming back from an injury, and his relationship with Anthony Richardson isn't as strong as the ones with Downs. So what's your intake on Michael Pittman Jr.?
Yeah, I kind of like what you said. He's been grinding through injuries, so that's probably part of the reason why he hasn't looked like his 2023 self. However, he is going to play this week, but I will also be fading him, not because of his injury as much as just that it doesn't seem like the chemistry is quite all there yet with Anthony Richardson. We knew coming out, Anthony Richardson's big thing was he needs repetitions. He only has about 14 career starts in college, and he's at about 10 in the NFL. So he just needs more reps. He was a project, so it doesn't look like the report is there just yet. So if you have a more reliable option there on the bench, there is always a chance that, he has a couple big splash plays, because that is one thing that Richardson has been providing. But between the nagging injuries and then also just with Richardson being so inaccurate this year, I would probably fade him.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're moving on to a big game with your Steelers, Marcus, and a couple guys on the other side of the ball. Gus Edwards returned last week what am I talking about? Gus Edwards is Isaiah Likely. Here we go. Is going to impact Mark Andrews' situation. It doesn't look like Likely is playing at this stage, right?
The most recent thing that I read was that him and Kyle Hamilton are both off the injury report, and they will play.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So as far as your Steelers side of the ball, this is a really good matchup for Russell Wilson, Mike Williams, and George Pickens at this stage. What's your outtake here? Are you expecting a big game from the pass catchers? I got Russell Wilson as one of my starts of the week. bigz has both Mike Williams and George Pickens as his starts of the week in the wide receiver position. So coming from an insider in the Steelers, what do you think? Are we on a good track here?
Yeah, so the offense has looked very good the last really 3 games since Russ has taken over. They're 3-0. They're averaging like 26.5 points a game or something like that. They've hit 400 yards twice, and they've been doing a lot of it through the air. And we know that Baltimore is very susceptible to the pass. I believe they're 31st or 32nd in pass defense. Dating back the last 2 seasons, so 4 games against the Ravens, Najee Harris has played really well. I know he's gone over 100 in at least 2 of those games. But the Ravens are very stout against the run. They typically are, but Pittsburgh has, figured out a way to run on them. But this year, though, I think that might be a different story. While they still will try to run the ball, that's been their MO through 10 weeks this season. I do think to win, they're going to have to air it out a little bit. And I would feel pretty confident, playing especially Pickens, and even in deeper leagues, sliding in like a Calvin Austin or even a Mike Williams though he'll see probably limited snaps just since he's so new to the team. But, if they're going to win, they're going to have to beat them through the air, I think. So, I do like the matchup from that standpoint for any Steelers pass catchers.
Yeah, and as far as the run game goes, you talked about Najee Harris, and he's a little banged up. He had a minor high ankle sprain, but it looks like he's been cleared. It looks like he's going to be playing. Like you mentioned, that tough matchup against the Ravens, tough run defense. If they are vulnerable, you mentioned it's against the pass. So I'm not expecting big things from Najee this week, especially with that ankle. And we talked about it on our show yesterday. More or less, we're looking at maybe this being more of a Jaylen Warren game. If anything, we're going to get any production out of the backfield, unless Najee can kind of sneak in for a touchdown.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because yesterday it was new that Jaylen Warren popped up on the injury report with a back injury. He didn't practice yesterday and he did not practice today. He's listed as questionable. So I'm not sure about his status, to be honest. If he can't go, though, in deeper leagues, I would look to play Cordero Patterson. Especially with Najee banged up a little bit with the ankle injury. He was a full participant. He's going to play. But the person that's going to spell him this week is going to be Cordero, who could be in line for 7 to 10 touches, which, in a start 13 or 14 deeper leagues, might be worth a play there. So that's something to keep in mind as well for this game.
Yeah, a little sneaky backdoor action there. Let's talk about Aaron Jones here and his ribs looking like he's going to be playing, but this matchup against this Titans team is a tough one. Are you considering playing him this week?
If he goes, I think you have to consider him. I know Cam Akers did an okay job stepping in last week, but Jones is their lead back. I'm going to try to find the newest sleeper update here. It says, he's removed from the injury report. So he is going to play. I would throw him in there even against they're playing Tennessee, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, the Titans up.
And they have a pretty good run defense, but no, I'm still playing him because I think he's going to be in line for some pretty good volume this week.
Yeah, volume, potentially some catching work as well. This game could be a little bit tighter. Sam Darnold has not looked good the last couple of games. His O-line has not been, helping him out in any way. So I think this could be a closer game than people expect. And the Titans are a tough defense, and they make it hard on opposing quarterbacks. So I'm looking for this game to be a low-scoring affair too. Okay, let's move on to a game that just had some recent inactives and a couple guys that were ruled out of this one. Sam LaPorta, he is not going to play. That's a huge blow for the Lions, but maybe they're going to take it easy knowing that they got kind of a layup matchup against the Jaguars at home. Tank Bigsby is not going to play. It's a tough matchup for the running backs against the Lions, so even Etienne getting the lion's share here, I'm not going to be starting him against a tough Detroit team until he can show that he can prove it. So first off there, Marcus, talk about Sam LaPorta, and do you think this is more precautionary? If this was a more important game for the Lions, do you think they would have him in?
Potentially. Those AC joints, though, can be pretty painful. And depending on the degree of the injury, you have your grade 1, 2, or 3. This might take a little bit more time to heal. Now, that is something you can play through. But again, at this stage of the season, that where they have one loss, they're 8-1, 9-1. They can probably get by resting him now. Even if they were to drop a couple games, they're still going to make the playoffs. So it could be a little bit of both. It wouldn't surprise me, if he is in some pain and they really just want to make sure he gets healthy down the stretch for the playoffs. But I don't think this should be anything super concerning, for him to be out for the season or anything like that, unless he were to suffer some kind of setback. I know some AC joints do require surgery. We saw it with Anthony Richardson last year. Again, it just depends on the degree of the separation. So just keep an eye on it. However, I wouldn't be super concerned long-term. For Travis Etienne, though, Tank Bigsby is out. In PPR leagues, he might be worth a look because if you got to think game script-wise, if they're losing most of the second half, he might just get a lot of garbage check down kind of work, which doesn't do much for the actual game. But for fantasy purposes, he could sneak in a nice little 15, 20-point performance with like a 6 or 7 catch type game just due to the negative game script.
So do you think that maybe Dearness Johnson, because he's been a guy that's been coming in on third down, has those pass catching chops? Do you think he just goes in and plays the Tank Bigsby role, or do you think this is more of a lean towards Etienne? Because he's coming off an injury too.
Yeah, right. So I do think they're going to lean on Travis, but because he has been banged up this year, and we've seen Dearness get some work, similar to how I was talking about Cordero Patterson, might be worth a play in those deeper leagues to just throw Dearness in there. Again, anything can really happen in the NFL, but Lawrence is out again, Bigsby's out. The Lions are just an absolute buzzsaw right now, so you have to imagine they're probably going to be trailing most of the second half. So in PPR leagues, I think both Etienne and Dearness Johnson could be worth like a play, like a flex play. If you got some other guys out on buys.
Yeah, no kidding. We're going to hear from our sponsor here, the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. It's a community where you can go and get your questions answered, hang out with like-minded people, and we're going to hear from our good friend Dan Mader.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
All right, we're back, and we're going to move on to the Raiders at Dolphins. And now Tyreek Hill, he's been dealing with that wrist injury all year, it seems. And people that were hopeful that getting Tua back would make a huge difference in this, but it's looking like the Dolphins offense in general aren't what they used to be, even with Tua in there. They're using their running backs more in the passing game. They're actually incorporating their tight ends quite a bit here. Jonnu Smith is, earning close to a 20% target share every single game now. As far as Tyreek Hill goes, his injury is going to play through it, but what's your overall concern? Do you think this injury has something to do with his decrease in production, or is it his age maybe creeping up with him now at this stage of the game, Marcus?
That's a great question. It's really hard to tell because the Dolphins have just looked pitiful all year. I don't know if the kind of like the shine has wore off from the super genius Mike McDaniel, but it just hasn't looked good. I know they missed Tua for a few games, but even with him, like they had been struggling. I don't know that his injury is hampering him a lot because it is a wrist injury. So you got to think about it. Like while that might affect him catching passes and like ball security for reverses and stuff, I mean, he still can run routes. He still has his legs, his speed, right? But, father time comes for everybody. He is 30 or 31. He's not going to be the fastest person in the league for forever. It's just not possible. So it could be a combination of, maybe he's getting a little older. The nagging wrist injury can be annoying. And then also the Dolphins. I mean, look at his running mate, Jalen Waddle. He's been bad this year too. So I don't really know that you can put it all on Hill. I just think, that offense outside of Devon Achane just hasn't been great for fantasy. And Jonnu a little bit too. But the two for the receivers, it has not been great this year.
Yeah. Now on the other side of the ball, Jacoby Myers is becoming a guy that, I'm targeting a lot of my leagues as a late bloomer here, who's going to maybe come in and, put up some wide receiver 2 numbers, some weeks where he can, sneak into the top 12. But he's going to be solidifying himself for sure as a top 24 wide receiver here on out, in my opinion. Little banged up here. Are you concerned about this injury, Marcus? Are you going to be starting him? Are you as optimistic as I am on Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, I really like Myers. He's been a full participant this week, so it looks like he is going to play. But he's a good player. I think, honestly, had New England not been like trending down towards the rebuild, they probably could have re-signed him. I think he's a pretty solid receiver. And, with no Adams anymore, it's really just him and Bowers absorbing all of those targets. So, no, I really like him. I have him in a couple leagues. I did trade for him, and I think one of the leagues we're in together, the Omega League. I think Kuvatakis, he was part of that trade. But no, I like him a lot, and I'm firing him up this week too because he earns targets as well. He's just a good player. So
yeah,
big Myers fan.
And the big thing in New England is just he just didn't have the touchdown luck. He just couldn't catch the ball in the touchdown in the end zone there. So I'm looking for him to have some regression here too. So I'm a big fan of him. As this season is going to end. Now let's move on to the Falcons and Broncos. Now Darnell Mooney popped up on the injury report on Thursday. Looks like he practiced today. Achilles. Interesting injury to kind of just pop up here. What's your gut tell you on this one there, Marcus?
Yeah, so super weird. Kind of just popped up yesterday, and then today he was not listed on the injury report, full participant. So he is good to go for the game. A weird little one-day pop-up like that tells me maybe it's some sort of tendonitis, meaning, it could have been bothering him all season, but yesterday it just got to the point where it was, nagging enough to have him rested a little bit, but I would keep an eye on it moving forward, because if it does flare up to the point where it limits him a lot, he might have to miss a game or two. But it is encouraging that he was a full participant today and he's not on the injury report just after showing up yesterday. But definitely something to keep an eye on for your PPR wide receiver 8 up to this point in this year, which is something that nobody saw coming.
Biggs had, I'm gonna defend him. He had him as a top 24 as a bold prediction, not quite the top 8, but
Right.
for sure that's a pretty bold prediction on its own there to have him there. So good on Biggs. So I've got a decent amount of Mooney on my lineups because of it, because of that tip, and it's helped me out a bit. But this week though, Kirk Cousins is going to be in for a long day. I think the Broncos play really tight defense, and I just think that it's going to be a hard one, even with the weapons around Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney being a bit banged up, even Drake London still coming off of that injury 2 weeks ago. It's a tough matchup for Cousins. What's your thoughts on his matchup, and are you going to start him regardless? I know there's a lot of great streaming options this week at the quarterback position.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup. At Denver, solid defense. It's tough playing in the Mile High Stadium for altitude reasons as well. His receivers are both banged up, but going to play. Unless you have a really comfortable backup option, I almost feel like you have to put him in just because you know what his ceiling is. When he gets hot, he can absolutely just zip it through the air. We saw a 500-yard game earlier this year. Something to keep an eye on, though, is the weather. Because I know I'm a big Air Force football fan. I know they've been getting pounded with snow, and they're in Colorado Springs, which is about an hour outside of Denver. So off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but if it's any kind of snow, inclement weather, it's just tough to throw the ball in, period. So in that event, in addition to them playing a solid defense, then, maybe you could look for a decent backup or a streaming option,
For sure. Okay, let's move on to two of the bigger games of the week, some divisional contests. We'll start here with the 49ers and the Seahawks. DK Metcalf looks like he's going to be a full go. Huge news for the Seahawks, who've been without him for a couple of weeks here. And I'm looking forward to seeing how JSN looks after his breakout performance there 2 weeks ago, that monster game. Seeing how that confidence level comes up, and I'm looking to see the Seahawks team come around a little bit on the second half here. So DK Metcalf is definitely a guy that they need back in the lineup. What's your thoughts on DK, and is he just going to just slot right back in and 100% go at it?
Yeah, I think he'll be good to go. MCLs are pretty it's the best case scenario, meaning that, the ligament is on the outside of the joint capsule, so it has the ability to heal on its own without surgery. Seemed like a pretty minor sprain for him, so I don't expect many limitations for him. I think he's going to be back in his, vertical threat role, which might limit JSN. His big game a couple weeks ago, they were chucking it to him down the field a lot, and we haven't seen him run those routes with Metcalf on the field. So, you have to guess that he's going to revert back a little bit, to what we were seeing with Metcalf healthy, and that's, a lot of near the line of scrimmage. But, we'll see. But that would be my guess, is that, I don't think you're going to see a huge game from JSN with Metcalf back.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the 49ers. We've got a couple of guys looking good, coming back. The load management for Christian McCaffrey, people were really eyeing that. Looks great. he's going to come back, and I think he's ready to rock. He didn't look very slow after, you got to expect a little bit of rest, but I think they're going to be using him 100% here moving forward now, right?
Yeah, I mean, he got a lot of work last week. I did actually just get a sleeper update that he is fully healthy, like he was questionable and then upgraded to healthy. He's off the injury report. So, yeah, I would proceed as normal for him. He's back until you hear otherwise. You got to play him, and you got to expect probably 20 to 25 touches a game, I would imagine, especially in a divisional game. So,
all right, now another big game here. This is a huge matchup between the Chiefs and the Bills for the AFC, supremacy here. The Bills need to win this if they want to have a shot at the number 1 seed. The Chiefs, I think, are got a little bit to play for. I think if they take this one down, it'll be hard for anybody to take them down the stretch, especially if you look at their schedule. Next week they got the Panthers. So, I think you're going to see a good effort from the Chiefs. You may not, see them go all out because, they're maybe not too concerned on going 16, 17-0. That's going to take some wear and tear on them down the stretch. So I'm expecting them to, have a very strong game. But if there's going to be a game they're going to lose, it's probably going to be this one. It's going to be tight. But they're getting Juju back. They got Hopkins there now. Hunt is cleared to play. And, on the other side of the ball, we got Amari Cooper, who looked like he's getting back into action here, which I think the Bills really need to see him fit into that lineup. I want to see that open up the field for Khalil Shakir on the slot. So what's your overall outtake on this game and those 3 injuries that these guys are going to be coming back from?
So we'll start with the Chiefs. Juju looks like he's going to be back. It's just another weapon added, for Mahomes there. We've seen D-Hop get involved. Kelsey's getting more involved. Worthy a little bit here and there, but it'll just be nice to have another option at receiver to get the ball to. Looks like Kareem Hunt's going to play. No Pacheco this week, but Hunt has done a fine job filling in there. Flipping over to the Bills side, I missed on this last week, but it does actually look like Cooper is going to play this week. I think Keon Coleman is still out, but that's why they went and bought Amari Cooper prior to the deadline. So they're going to throw him there on the outside and pair that with, the Shakirs and Curtis Samuels of the world. I think Dalton Kincaid is also out, so maybe they'll rely a little bit more on Cooper, but. Not sure with that wrist injury because he did miss. He has missed a little bit of time, so I'm not sure to what extent it's bothering him. However, it looks like he's going to go, and I expect him to be heavily involved on the outside, especially with no Keon Coleman.
Yeah, and you mentioned too Kincaid maybe not playing either. So the Chiefs are very vulnerable against opposing tight ends. So look for Dawson Knox as a possible streamer, a guy that I would feel comfortable just setting in my lineup if Kincaid is officially out of that game. All right, so let's get on to 2 more guys before we head out here for the evening here there, Marcus. We got T. Higgins. Had his walkthrough practice off the injury report, slot him right in against a Chargers team that has been surprising this year. You think T. Higgins just goes in and performs well?
I think he does. I mean, even when he's healthy, though, he's kind of a volatile player. You've seen him with goose eggs and you've seen him with 34 points. But we know he has a good rapport with Burrow. Chase has been absolutely lighting it up. So you got to think he's going to earn a lot of attention from Harbaugh, which could open up some more opportunities for T. Higgins. So he is healthy. He's off the injury report. He's expected to play. So if you have him, I would throw him in just because his ceiling is too high to be sitting on the bench unless you're absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, you got it at this stage. You've been waiting on him, so let's get him in there. Nico Collins, the last guy we're going to talk about because we're all excited to have him back. Was playing at an elite level, top 5 wide receiver when he was in the lineups here. So I'm expecting a little bit more of the same. I think, CJ Stroud's going to really benefit from having his number 1 weapon back. And I think actually Tank Dell also will have some excitement back into his lineup as well with taking some of the coverage off of him. So I'm liking this addition, full bore right away, you think, for Nico?
Honestly, yeah. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Hamstrings can be anywhere from like 2 weeks to 2 months to 3 months even. My guess is that he was probably closer to the 2-week injury, but they felt like they could afford putting him on IR to give him 4 to 5 weeks to really rehab it, making sure that it lowers his re-injury risk as the season progresses. He honestly probably could have played last week, but you already waited 4 games. What's waiting one more? Really just make sure that your alpha X receiver out there is healthy and ready to go down the stretch. So he says he's 100%. He feels great. He's ready to go. He's going to play. So yeah, I think he's you might see a little rush just because he hasn't played in 5 weeks, but he won't be on a snap count or anything like that. And I think he's going to get his fair share of targets for sure.
Yeah, the only bad part is he's playing the Cowboys, who they could be up pretty early, and they could be running the clock in the second half. So unless he scores early in the game, I'm not expecting this to be a very big passing game for the Texans with how good Mixon has been running and how bad the Dallas Cowboys run defense has been lately. So I'm expecting this game to be well in hand by the Texans by halftime. But I've been known to be wrong in the past, so we'll see what happens. Wow. 25 minutes in there, Marcus, we covered all the injuries. We got some guys coming back. So hopefully we stay healthy throughout this weekend. You want to tell our viewers and everybody where to find you and all your stuff?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X at MDGailey, also on the Undroppables YouTube page. I have a Steelers show there called Steelers Uncovered. I do a little bit of injury content there. And then once a week, as able, I'm usually on here with my boys Grindberg and bigz. So there it is.
Yeah. Keep bringing the heat, Marcus. You've been a great addition to our show weekly, and we always look forward to your insight and your important analysis on the injuries. So you've helped me, in my lineup. So I appreciate your help, and we appreciate having you here. So from all of us here on the Fantasy Forecast, on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, we hope you win, folks.
Hope you win. See you next time.
Yeah. Peace out.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com